Greetings from Boingo Wireless in sunny Los Angeles, California. We are very excited to come to you today. We are sad to be missing Barcelona and Mobile World Congress, but certainly excited to share some great information with you virtually, and certainly did not miss sleeping on an airplane. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We are Boingo Wireless. I am Doug Lauder. I run business development here, and we've been at it for quite some time, since before 2G. We got into the business of wireless through operating Wi-Fi networks in airports and some other complicated places. And as things evolved and time passed by, we graduated into more and more of the complexity of networks as they became more complicated. And by virtue of being in that role, one of the places that we were pulled into very early on is a big NFL stadium here in the US in Chicago, Soldier Field, home of the Chicago Bears. We partnered with them in 2007 to build a Wi-Fi network, just in case anyone wanted to bring a laptop to a football game on a Sunday. We wanted to make sure they had Wi-Fi, and we wanted to make sure that they were going to pay us, I think, $5 or $6 or $7 a game to access the Wi-Fi. How times have changed. Since then, we have been working with multiple professional teams, collegiate teams here in the US, helping them improve the game day experience. What started off as a connectivity challenge inside stadiums, how do you deliver the service, has now become an asset of value to the teams and the owners of the stadiums to drive more value out of the attendance as well as out of the venue as well. So no longer is it just about a connection. Now it's a strategic asset being used by teams to drive value. And we'll talk a little bit about that in our presentation today. So we work across all different types of arenas, amphitheaters, concerts, soccer, basketball, collegiate, professional. And so where that puts us in the industry is very unique. We get to see what different tools are being deployed by different teams, by different leagues, by virtue of being in the center of the digital strategy as a network operator. We are often asked to participate in and be involved in the digital strategy, the strategy that the teams and owners are using to drive more value from the fan experience. And so from all that, we get to crowdsource really great ideas. We get to enhance our technology product, and we get to go deliver an enhanced solution to fans and teams across the country. So from that, we get to talk about, what's next, what we're seeing and what we're hearing. I think, by virtue of the crowdsourced nature of our role in the ecosystem, I think we get to see and hear some really cool stuff. Some of the stuff that's kind of front of mind at the moment, or top of mind at the moment, we were all at Mobile World Congress last year, hopefully. Facial recognition, we all hopefully got to see the fast lane of people walking right by and getting in easily versus the folks that didn't have the facial recognition turned on, had to wait in a longer line. That is something that is becoming very much more prevalent here in the US. The move to mobile ticketing has been happening for quite some time. The notion that the teams and fans really don't get to know who is attending the game in a paper ticket world. And so the first step was to get mobile tickets in place so that teams could understand who was attending and who was not attending, who was giving their tickets away, who was the recipient of the gifted tickets. And now facial recognition is kind of the next evolution of that, where not only do you know who the person is, but you know what they look like, and you can move them through the lines very quickly, get them into the parking lot, get them into the stadium relatively quickly. Obviously, the apps have gotten a lot more advanced. We're seeing a lot of biometric and stats on players, stats on teams, stats on stats, just a lot of information that's being gathered by a lot of different sources and then delivered to the end user, either in the stadium or not in the stadium. And then the one that gets me the most excited is micro betting. There's a lot of energy around gambling in venue here in the US, where it's been prohibited since the dawn of sports. And there's now going to be legislation likely rolled out slowly over time that will allow gambling to take place inside sports venues. And so, that has, drawn a lot of interest, primarily because of the revenue opportunity for the teams and the owners. Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, has said that he believes that the ability to micro bet in stadiums will double the value of every NBA franchise. So that just goes to show you the scale of what we're talking about. And really, when it comes to micro betting, the notion of you have to be able to understand where the bet's coming from, how quickly it arrives, and ensure that the action you're betting on doesn't happen before the bet is processed. So there's a lot of need to enhance technology, enhance connectivity. So a lot of cool things happening in the world of sports. And one of the other things that's happening at the venues themselves is this notion that the venue can not just sit there year round when there's not an event and not get used. Staples Center here in Los Angeles is frequently used or referenced as the case study of how to deploy a new venue. There's the stadium downtown. There's the shopping district next door. There's the theater. What's grown up around Staples Center is commercial, office, residential. It's really revitalized downtown. And so using arenas as the centerpiece of arenas and stadiums as the centerpiece of revitalization opportunities, enhancement opportunities, new central business districts, you name it. And so as part of that, the entertainment venue becomes a part of the fabric of the area, and the notion that it can be used for more than just sporting events, right? So take Capital One Arena, for example, which is where the Washington basketball and hockey teams play. They have announced that they would like to put a sports book, a year-round sports book, inside the arena and host events. And you can go in there and you can watch events from all over the world. You can gamble. Perhaps they'll let you ice skate after you've had a few beers. Who knows? But there's clearly a lot of energy around trying to use technology and experiential things to drive more value from the arenas themselves. And so they're going to keep pushing the envelope on technology and how that could work. So how does Boingo do it? How do we make it happen? We don't charge $8 a day for Wi-Fi in stadiums anymore, and we don't connect too many laptops at football games. That's certainly the case. And we are, work with the teams most early on in their evolution of how they're coming to grips with what they want to deploy technology-wise. It's usually pretty early in the life cycle of a project when you come to the conclusion that the one piece that's consistent across all the different strategic elements you like to deploy is this notion of connectivity. And so whether it's an app strategy, an AR strategy, a VR strategy, ticketing, facial recognition, regardless of what strategy you're thinking of, what innovation you're trying to push, there's likely a need for a really good, dense technology network. And so typically that's when Boingo comes in, whether it's new construction, whether it's an existing amphitheater, an existing stadium. That's usually the bottleneck is getting a really dense network in the venue that's going to enable these technology strategies that the teams have. So we like to think of the network solution in sports as kind of three-legged: the convergence, densification, and data. Starting with convergence, hopefully this graph looks pretty normal for folks in the US, maybe not so much elsewhere, but here in the US, the volume of different spectrum technologies that are becoming available for us to use as consumers, for IoT devices to use, machine to machine, back of house, you name it, is pretty incredible. Just looking at the dense deployment slide, the alphabet soup of acronyms is pretty incredible. And what was a pretty simple solution 10 years ago, 15 years ago, go put some cabling in, go put some antennas in, and make sure you have a pipe out to the internet, is not anymore. Because you're planning for a multitude of different technologies, a multitude of different spectrum bands, and really having a solution that can scale up with the different technologies that you want to deploy, scale down to provide back of house and IoT where it's needed, and really be flexible enough to scale as the needs of the venue scale. And then the final piece, of course, is data, and not just data for the sake of data, right? Data because there are more devices coming to the venue every day. Now players are wearing devices. There's devices on the sidelines. Drew Brees has got a Surface tablet. He's swiping and seeing pictures. So devices are growing up. Data, the amount of data being consumed because of all these devices, that's obviously going to go up. And then the services being layered on top to enable that data to be processed by teams, owners, and venues to make smarter decisions and deliver different experiences to the end user. All that processing is just going to require even more data and more processing. So between the convergence, between the data, it really requires a scalable solution that is really dense and really well thought out. And there's, in our opinion, very few companies that are capable of doing it in a really great way. And of course, we can't finish without talking about CBRS. This is probably the one that's closest to our heart. It's next on the horizon, mid-band spectrum, 3.5 gigahertz here in the US. Really a tool to drive more innovation and more consumption of the spectrum. So the FCC here in the US has decided that it's more important to get the spectrum used and deployed and innovation to take place than it is to generate revenue from selling spectrum. And we're really excited about this. We think it delivers a whole new slew of opportunities for back of house, for different ways to deliver an enhanced LTE experience without the requirement of a licensed FCC radio. And so we're already starting to see this deployed in some locations, and we're really excited about its potential. And especially in the sports space, I think this will probably be the catalyst for a lot of the micro betting and gambling transactions that we previously spoke about. So on that note, we will wrap things up here from LA. I will lose the blazer and the button-down shirt, head back to the beach. I hope you're all enjoying your time wherever you are, and look forward to seeing you at Mobile World Congress Americas here in Los Angeles later this year. Thank you.